I run the healthcare vertical at Fischer Media. I'm joined by
Andrea Fischer at Bayer Consumer Healthcare.
Christin Miller at Bayer Consumer Healthcare.
So why don't we start with that? Why don't you guys each just sort of give us a snapshot of what you're up to, what your roles and responsibilities are there?
So Bayer's media is actually 100% in-house, so I work on their media strategy team. I work on the pain cardio brand, so Leave, Bayer, Aspirin, Midol, hopefully Barrett's that you've all heard of. And I run their paid media strategy.
What she failed to say was that we're very good friends as well, because we actually share responsibilities on the team. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we work and then what we do at the office. But I also help out with corporate communications, and I do integrated strategic communications.
I apologize, I'm extra calm because I had a trip right before this.
She did.
Maybe not the best decision right before a panel, but
I tried to warn her.
it was good though.
Mine hasn't kicked in yet, so I'm still amped up from caffeine. So. All right, so let's get right into it. 2024, I think safe to say, there's a bunch of press. Let's call it a year of change. Let's talk about that. Why was change needed, and what kind of change are we talking about?
So Bayer itself, as a massive global company, is undergoing a massive organizational shift right now. And ironically, we have sort of been a little bit of an incubator on our brands for longer than we probably care to imagine. But essentially what we're doing is we're taking down hierarchies, we're trying to flatten our structure, you obviously being a little bit more agile, more lean, and it's under this banner of dynamic shared ownership. But ultimately what that really means is that everyone has a seat at the table and decisions are made at sort of the lower levels. So we're going towards a structure where, subject matter experts have as much say as potentially, a brand leader. So it's a very much a new and evolving structure. It's a little scary for some people, but we've embraced it on our team because I think we were a very like-minded, well-rounded group before then. So what we're doing on sort of the pain and cardio brands is, I think, a little bit unique. And Andrea is a strategist, a media strategist, and my background is in comms. And we sit on projects and we make decisions together. It's a little bit unusual, but it's worked very well for us so far.
Yeah, rather than, Chrissy, this is a PR comms thing, we handle it, and then bring me in when you need media. We really do fully collaborate on all of our projects together with our brand marketing team. So, and then we do pull in others, obviously, when needed, when we need, extra advice or input or things like that. But, Chrissy went to Japan a couple months ago for vacation with her family for 2 weeks, and while I missed her terribly, and I never want her to do that again, it was sort of a seamless transition while she was gone. The brand manager and I just kind of filled in for her, and we were able to seamlessly do that because we were all so ingrained in the business and in the projects that we were working on, and vice versa, right? Like our brand manager went out, Chrissy and I jumped in and filled in. When I'm out, Chrissy and our brand managers jump in and fill in for me. And we can just sort of make those decisions for each other, and we have that trust in each other, I think, which really helps move things along.
Yeah, which leads us to what we wanted to talk about, which is our Midol brand, because it really is the collaboration of about 3 or 4 core people that have made all of that magic happen over the past, few years. And so both as a company, I always call it the parent and the child, both as the parent and the child, we're now sort of all singing from the same song sheet as ways of working. So it's sort of an interesting journey we've been on.
So how's it going? Change is easy, right?
Well, we should ask our colleague who's in the audience, how's it going, Alexis? Listen, change is hard, right? And I think some people have just a better ability to adapt than others, but I think it's been really interesting to learn new things and to grow and to have different opportunities. So far, so good.
So how far into it are we at this point, Steve?
So we're about 6 months in, I think, fully operational. So, and we've been profiled in the Wall Street Journal, so you guys can take a look. It's actually pretty intense in terms of the role. I think it's the largest of its kind ever done in an organization of our size. So it's a really big sort of shift. But then I'm also reading the news this morning about Amazon and the return to work. And if you read, the fine print on that, it's a very similar structure, trying to reduce management layers, trying to get us, get them to a more agile structure. So I think a lot of people are trying to adapt this way of working, but the reality is you do have to have the right individuals, and it's all about the team. And if you have people that are willing to work together and hold hands on the project, you really can make magic happen. So it is a bit of a mindset shift. And, that takes a little bit of time. Some people can just adapt faster. Others, you have to really sort of hold their hand through the change.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Okay. I think it's definitely a transition for a lot of people, and it might not be for everybody. It is a mindset shift, but the goal at the end of the day is really to empower individuals to make decisions, right? And we were wasting a lot of time before. You spend a lot of time and energy on projects trying to get things done, and then you send it up the chain, and you have to make 27 rounds of revisions and changes, and then it comes back down, and then you have to do it again, and it can take months and months and months to get things done. And so we are of the mindset that it has to be good enough, not perfect, most of the time. And good enough really is good enough a lot of the time. So it takes maybe 3 months to get things done instead of 9, which is, for many of us, really awesome.
And I'll steal a couple words from a minute earlier. I think it was Muriel that used the 2 words, nimble and quick. Is it safe to say that's sort of what the end game is here to, as you monitor progress and look for those KPIs?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're trying to embrace the motto of sort of safe to try. And safe to try essentially means, again, like if it's 85%, let's test, let's see. Whereas I think a lot of the industry, especially in the highly regulated companies, which it seems like there's a sort of a mix in the room, but everything had to be perfect. Everything had to be pressure tested. Everything had to go through so many rounds to make sure everyone was bought in. And that may have gotten you to a perfect product, so to speak, but it was not quick in any way. So we're just, and we're trying not to lose quality control along the way, which was a challenge, right? Quick and quality control doesn't always go hand in hand, but because we are highly regulated, we have to make sure that we're creating space for both. So all of our processes and systems are sort of undergoing the change to adapt to the speed as well.
But quickly, nothing too radical. No first mover status. I mean, speak to that also. The on the sidelines as opposed to diving into new change before it can sort of take root.
Yeah, I think mentality is probably first mover. I would say maybe technological updates less so. But I think that there is definitely a spirit of entrepreneurism amongst the staff right now. Those that are sticking with us through the change, I think are energized and are interested to see what it brings.
So what does good look like? Progress, we'll call it.
Yeah, I mean, for Midol, we partnered with a social agency this year, and then through the spirit of DSO and very creator-led, obviously, as we mentioned, have churned out hundreds of pieces of really relevant, super relevant, creator-driven content this year, which for a company like Bayer, a huge company who has rigorous legal, medical, regulatory processes in place, is unheard of, right? We're able to jump on trends very quickly, which I know for many of you is probably a huge challenge. You see something trendy on TikTok and Instagram and you want to jump right on that and take a part of it, and then 3 weeks later your legal team has approved it and it's not a trend anymore. Nobody cares about it anymore. So for us, that was a huge thing to be able to churn out this amount of quality content that really speaks to our consumer, our core consumer, and is on trend and relevant and does the job that we're trying to get it to do. I think one of our marketers coined the phrase edutainment, right? So it's really important for us to educate our consumers, but we need to do it in a fun way, otherwise it's just boring and we're just talking at them.
I was just going to ask you guys having fun? I mean, describe the culture change and what's going on there.
I mean, we have a lot of fun. Sometimes we have too much fun, especially the two of us. But I think that's part of why we love it, right? So we have a great group. We're really very lucky, but we all really respect each other. And I think it's also really important that we do not always have the same opinions. So, we're kind of going back and forth a lot. And we net out where we net out. There's always a compromise.
Yeah, and I agree. I think both from an internal perspective, we have a really good group of people that represent a lot of different subject matters and personalities and backgrounds and points of view, but also our partners, some of which are sitting in the room. I think that's super important because content is its sort of own animal, and while we have agencies of record that do certain pieces, we also have to bring in, different varying voices depending on what's happening with the business. So I think the melding together of all those things, it's a challenge, it's a matrix, it's complicated, but everyone working towards it together, I think, helps manage it.
This is great. So as you look to the end of the year and into 2025, what's next? What are some of the things that you're going to have
So we're
your
definitely
eyes
going to
on?
we're definitely going to be broadening our view on what's happening in culture and making sure that it responds to our business needs. We've seen the rise of, because we work on a women's focused brand, like the rise of women in sports is such a huge topic for us. And just sort of like what the complex and dynamic relationship of sort of this emerging generation of women is looking like. Technology is a big piece. Trying to figure out how that can help, jumpstart our business. We're not quite there yet. We're testing in a few areas. Andrea, you might be closer to speaking about some of that than myself. But just making sure that we're also, looking at our creator mix, looking at what we're putting out on our channels, and making sure that people are responding to it. It's a constant evolution of what we develop.
Yeah, there's this little thing you may have heard something about AI, or it stands for artificial intelligence and machine learning. Are you involved in much of that? Is there any stuff that you can talk about today, or is it in the works? Or?
We have some of our partners that we work with, like Google, who we, YouTube especially, who we test a lot of AI and through their AI tools, just in terms of their targeting, the way that we're able to personalize our creative and things like that. And then internally, we are working on some things in the way of AI. I don't think I can speak about them specifically, but some tools and things that help us streamline things internally. So yes, short answer, yes, we're definitely kind of going in that direction for sure.
A few people are talking about it, and in particular in healthcare, it's interesting, and particularly in social, but
Yeah.
either way. So, all right. So, what else? What else you guys? I mean, we talked about Midol. You work on other brands. Are there any stories there that you might want to share with us, or no? Not too exciting.
I mean, they're all
It's all
exciting
exciting.
in their own
It's
way.
all
Yes,
exciting.
yes.
But yeah, here's your opportunity for to Q&A, which I'm sure there's going to be questions on such a great topic. So we're at that point. Yes.
So you've been in this new org structure for the last 6 months, and of course, to your point, there's been resistance to change, but the idea of finding the org to make fast decisions is positive. Now that you've been in it for 6 months, are you seeing any gaps or challenges that you can anticipate? Like, what are those?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Because I sit on the comm side of the house, I'm particularly sensitive to that. So I think when you sort of go off in these 90-day cycles and you're super focused on a mission, it could leave out someone that's maybe not sitting next to you on that mission, right? So I think the opportunity for communication is much higher, and it has to be in a way that people are receptive to it. So massive email is not going to work. So we're sort of testing out new ways. Is it video based? Is it 90-second videos? Are we putting things out to just make sure we're doing 15-minute stand-up meetings or whatever? I think it's more about making sure that the holistic team is aware. Because when you move fast, sometimes not everyone's on the train with you. So that's a big one.
And then I just follow-up question to that too is another thing that's come out about flattening the org is opportunity for growth and careers.
Yeah.
So how are you thinking about that going forward?
Yeah, I mean, transparently, I think that was a big question on a lot of people's minds at Bayer, and it still is. And to also be transparent, I think we're still working the kinks out there. I think growth is going to look a little bit different. And for some people, that feels really uncomfortable, which I fully understand, myself included, right? Because I grew up in this place where you move up the ladder, you get promoted, and you do a good job, and then you have people underneath you. I think something else really important is some people don't like managing other people. And for some people, that was the only way to grow, is to get promoted and have a team under you. And for some people, they just want to do their job. They're really good at their job. They don't want to also manage a team. So I think we will see in the next 6 months, hopefully, what growth looks like at Bayer for different people, but I think it's a really great question and a similar question to many of us at the company.
I'll add context to that too, if you want. I work at Bayer. I would say that growth is coming in different shapes and sizes too. So I also sit on the in-house media team. I'm on a DSO mission related to comms for one of our vitamin brands, and I'm literally making creative content now. So I'm not creative trained, but Marielle said earlier that parallel moves are good sometimes. So I think that was an interesting view and perspective. Is like I wouldn't have been given this opportunity, and now I'm writing creative briefs and making content like that's going to market in 2 weeks. So it's a different kind of growth.
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that's the point of what we're trying to share, is that I came from a specialized area, Andrea came from a specialized area, but we're working towards things that we would never necessarily have the decision power on. So it's sort of an interesting opportunity if you're open to it.
Yeah, I think.
One of the reasons we were able to churn out such amazing creator-led content for Midol this year is because, I'm paid media, Chrissy is comms. Our brand person normally would have been the only person allowed and responsible to approve that content. But we have this core team now where I am approving content that goes out, Chrissy's approving it, we're giving feedback and thoughts, and we're all talking to the creators and the agencies and things like that. So again, a period of growth for me, right, where I am doing something different that doesn't really fall into my normal roles and responsibilities, but a way for me to grow and learn, and also a way for us to move things along much quicker because you have 3 people in charge of it now, so it gives everybody a little bit of perspective, but also room to do other things. And for those of you, apologies if we didn't say it, but DSO is the acronym we use for Dynamic Shared Ownership, which is this flattening the org philosophy.
Yes.
You made a comment about having a social agency and like monitoring trends, 3-week approval times, trends pass, like wanting to be able to move fast. I come from a digital media world, and I see that there's a lot of need for internal education and internal selling. So I'm curious, like, what that looks like for you. Do you find that you have to do a lot of education around what your team is doing, what success looks like, all of that kind of good stuff? What does that look like, and how do you think about streamlining?
Yes, and it's a lot of time spent with our legal, medical, regulatory team and a lot of teaching, education, on why this is important. I can't tell you how many conversations we've had where they're like, but I don't get it. And we're like, very nicely, you don't really have to get it, just make sure it's okay. Like, let's see.
Can I get sued?
Yeah, just make sure that we get sued. And we're not saying anything that we're not allowed to say. So yes, like, why do you want to do this? Like, what is this dance? We don't get it. Really get it. I know. Download TikTok. So yes, there's been a lot of education, and also a lot of challenges on our side too, because we want to do things that are on trend, but they also need to come back to the brand. We can't just do the dance because everybody else is doing the dance on TikTok. How does it apply back to our brand is like a huge filter for us that we're constantly, and sometimes it doesn't, so we shouldn't be doing it just because it's a trend, right? So I think there's some things that we can jump right on top of, and again, why Midol was our sort of test brand. It's so applicable in the women's health space. It makes a lot of sense for so many things, so it was easier for us to jump in and test there.
Now that you've leveled the playing field a little bit, and you have, I know we have a lot of siloed departments, and a lot of those are support departments that we want more responsibility. And I can already now think of some employees that would really benefit from this. Well, what about the ones that don't want to share more responsibility? And I know I'm going on a negative tip, but that's a real uncomfortable place. How is that addressed? And what if you don't step up to this elevated position and involvement in decision making?
It's very real. What I would say is they started from a place of education and training just to open the aperture. But the reality is, even with all of that, sometimes you're just not going to push someone who's resistant down that funnel. So, people vote with their feet, so to speak. But I would say that's a very small subset of the total. If you just think of like a bell curve, it's the furthest end of the bell curve. But change it comes in stages, and we're probably in messy middle right now. So we're still trying to push people through, but it's not for everyone. I think that's like something that we share publicly and we feel comfortable saying. And obviously this is our own perspective, but it's what we share publicly as a company.
And it's good and bad. To your point, it's not for everyone. Just like managing people is not for everyone. It's just the reality of the situation.
All right, this has been great, you guys. Thanks so much for.
Thank you.
Thank you.